Welcome into the BRSN Insider. I'm sitting down with Benedictine College wrestling coach Thomas Williams. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
National tournament passed last month. Last time we talked was before that. Talk a little bit about the national tournament, how you guys performed.
Yeah, it was a great national tournament for us. Best we've ever had, actually. We had 2 All-Americans. The most we've ever had before that was 1. So, yeah, having 2 guys place was huge. Anthony is a true freshman. He got 4th, and Kevin Kelly, he's a sophomore, and he got 5th. So having 2 underclassmen place at nationals was really, really huge for us as well. And finishing 23rd, and we started off that second day in 30th, and they scored a bunch of points for us, and that last day, and it was pretty exciting passing up those teams.
You're really close to getting the 3rd All-American. Dylan Scanlon missed it by 2 matches in the consolation bracket. His career now over at Benedictine. Talk a little bit about how he was at the national tournament.
Yeah, so Dylan was he was injured pretty bad. He had separated his ribs before nationals at the regional tournament, and it was actually got worse training and stuff. We basically had him doing as little as possible to try to hopefully get it feeling better. And his draw, he had a pretty tough draw. He had the 2 guys he wrestled. He lost to earlier in the year, but he actually did better against them at nationals with his injury. So, I talked to him after, and I know he was frustrated because he didn't reach his goals as being an All-American. But the type of competitor that he is, to make huge improvements against people he lost against while he's injured, that says a lot about him. And I'm excited. He's going to be a grad assistant for us next year, so we keep him 1 more year as he finishes his master's, and super excited for that.
How much does that help to have a guy that's wrestled in this conference? He's got the experience to help some of the younger guys as a grad assistant.
It helps a ton because the kids already look at him as a role model. He's been doing all the right things, and he's also been in my system, so he knows exactly what I want. It's not like me bringing in someone new and trying to teach them how I like things done. So,
from a coaching standpoint, how important is it to have one message, one philosophy from your entire staff instead of maybe 2 or 3 different things coming in?
It's pretty important. I would say it's good to have different ideas coming in, but an overall philosophy of how you're coaching is super important. I think it's important to get other ideas in, and Travis, my assistant, he wrestled over at Baker, and he brings a lot to us, but overall he has the same philosophy as me. But I like getting in different ideas, but having someone that believes in what you're for and kind of relaying the message to the guys is huge.
2 guys that have bought in, Kevin and Anthony, you talked about them, both underclassmen. The future of this program, very bright with 2 All-Americans.
Yeah, I was pretty excited with their finish. Both of them had tons of close matches. Anthony had 3 overtime matches. But, he followed the plan. And, 2 of the 3 he won in overtime. He lost to the defending national champion in overtime. Ended up majoring the national champion from 2 years ago in the consolation semis. So, yeah, both of them. And Kevin, he had a lot of close matches too, and he was gritty and everything. And one of them, I told him, hey, this move's going to be open that you like, and you're going to pin the kid if you do it. So look for it, and you're gonna get him. He's like, okay, coach. He only pinned 1 kid this year, so he went did it in the second period, pinned the kid, and he's like, wow, I'm glad I listened. That was only my second pin all year. So, yeah, they've bought in, and they believe in me and our kind of vision, and that's huge for us.
You guys turn the page now into the offseason. What does recruiting look like for you guys?
So recruiting, it's really been a mix of, I've been going to tournaments pretty much the whole season. I went to nationals up in Iowa last weekend, so I was over there talking to a lot of kids. I'm doing a lot of home visits. Right the day after nationals, I flew back out west, and I did home visits for 2 weeks. And I was basically living in my car, driving all over the place. But yeah, I met with over 20 kids, just meeting their families, talking to them about our program, what we have to offer, and yeah, just spend a lot of time on the phone too.
Looking forward, what does next year look like for you guys?
Next year's, I'm really excited for next year. Bringing back 2 All-Americans. I have a lot of younger guys too. We had a lot of freshmen in the lineup that got a ton of valuable experience this year. And then next year is huge for us too, having 4 guys graduate with their master's degrees too. So it's just marketing-wise, that's huge for us. And that 4 guys that believed in like my vision for the team and having guys pursue higher things. Yeah, it's going to be a big year for us.
Awesome. Coach, thank you very much. Another good season for you guys.
Thanks a lot.
I appreciate you joining us. Thomas Williams, head wrestling coach at Benedictine College on the Benedictine Ravens Sports Network Insider.
Benedictine College is a chosen place with a special mission. Chosen to lead students in the classroom and outside it. Chosen to bring students closer to God and to each other. Chosen to build one of the great Catholic colleges in America.
There's a call to be answered. The spirit of competition is still alive inside. The desire still drives. The phrase student athlete has a great ring to it. Lasting friendships are ready to be made. You just want to keep playing. Game on. Build character for life at championsofcharacter.org.
Welcome back on the BRSN Insider. I'm sitting down with Amanda McGee, head Benedictine College women's lacrosse coach on the BRSN Insider. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You guys just got back from a Colorado trip, a 20-0 win over Johnson & Wales and a 21-8 win over the University of Dallas. Talk a little about your weekend.
It was a really, really fun weekend for us. Obviously, our longest travel trip and farthest conference opponent. So we left Thursday morning and got in there for a game against Johnson & Wales on Friday. It was really important for me, for the girls to come out hot and not take any team for granted, not take any win for granted. So it was nice to see our offense and defense click. We've had some issues with that this year. One game, either the offense is on fire or the defense is. So it was nice that on that day they both clicked. And then to get the shutout was huge for us. It really does not happen very often in college lacrosse. So it's exciting for our goalies, for Taryn and for Teresa to have that. That was a big deal for us.
You said Taryn, back-to-back weeks you guys have swept KCAC honors. Molly and Taryn the first week, Lizzie and Taryn the second week. Talk about the 3 of them and how they've performed the last 2 weeks.
It's really exciting, and it's great to get our name out there in the public. And Taryn has been working so hard this season, and just her footwork and her hand-eye coordination. It's really a difficult position, and she has just done a fantastic job as a freshman to get in there. And last week was her 3rd time she's received it this season. So for any position, for any player, that's a big deal. I'm really, really proud of her. And then Molly as well, she was on fire this past weekend. She was battling with injury in the beginning of the season. So for her, I think she has gained her confidence back and something clicked. And then Lizzie, of course, she's just a fantastic player. And same thing with her. She had a couple games where she just couldn't find the back of the net, and we just tell them to continue. You got to keep shooting. You got to shoot through it. I think that's what you talk about in basketball too, where you can't stop shooting. So that it was nice to see her break through that this weekend and get a little more confidence in herself.
You guys are on some kind of a tear right now. 6 games in a row. What's it like to? Is it hard not to think about, we got to win the 7th, we have to win the 8th, or is it just something you put behind you?
I don't really think about the past games we've won, and until you told me that, I really hadn't thought about our past wins and that it's been that many. It's great, but it's like you have a very small window to celebrate, and then it's on to the next one. So we are looking forward to this weekend, and it's wonderful to be 5-0 in the conference, but we want to be 6-0. Last year we shared the regular season championship with Missouri Valley, and Ottawa. And this year, we want it to be ours. We want to be the #1 seed. I think we deserve it. It'll depend on how well we play and if we can get it done.
You talked about this weekend, Midland on Saturday, maybe arguably the biggest game of the year for you guys, your expectations.
Well, their schedule has kind of been very similar to ours in regards to conference games. They've had a lot of 1-goal losses, a lot of 1-goal wins, similar to us in the conference. So it will for sure be a battle. We only beat them by 1 last year. So this week has really just been focusing on the little stuff, and that's something we mainly do all season. Ground balls, passing, catching, just making sure that stuff is crisp. If that doesn't work, then nothing else works. So it's really about the little stuff. I'm a firm believer, little stuff takes care of the big stuff.
How important is it moving forward to have that #1 seed in the conference tournament?
It's a really big confidence builder. And I think for our returners, they get it. They've been there, so they know how important it is. And the freshmen, they don't want to let the returners down. So a first seed and not sharing the regular season championship would be really, really big for us. And I think the bump we need to continue to work hard for the conference tournament.
You guys have a chance now, second year in existence, to go back-to-back to the national tournament. What would that mean for your program at the start?
It's really exciting, and it kind of blows my mind to think about it when we talk about only being a team for 2 years. Last year, it was just such an amazing experience to see the level of play. And for the returners, I think it showed them, okay, this is what we want to look like in the next years coming up, and this is the work I have to put in over the summer and over fall ball. So it was an amazing experience last year. I hope we'll get there again this year and have a little bit more of the same, and have the freshmen see what it's like to play at that level. So you never know.
Last home game on Saturday, senior day. Talk a little bit about your seniors on your program.
They're fantastic, and I wish I could have had them for 4 years. The 2 years, it felt like it went by so fast with them. And they just bring so much leadership on and off the field. All 4 of them are starters and have been since pretty much the beginning of our varsity run last year. Caitlin Chicky, Mariana Brown, Claudia O'Connell, and Shannon Groh. All 4 of them are really backbones of our team, so it'll be a big hit for us next year when they leave, and I'm just so thankful that I got to have them for 2 years.
Well, Coach, best of luck to you on Saturday.
Thanks for having
Hopefully
me.
you guys can push the winning streak to 7.
Thank you very much.
Amanda McGee, head women's lacrosse coach at Benedictine College on the BRSN Insider.
Benedictine College is a chosen place with a special mission. Chosen to lead students in the classroom and outside it. Chosen to bring students closer to God and to each other. Chosen to build one of the great Catholic colleges in America.
There's a call to be answered. The spirit of competition is still alive inside. The desire still drives. The phrase student athlete has a great ring to it. Lasting friendships are ready to be made. You just want to keep playing. Game on. Build character for life at championsofcharacter.org.
Welcome back on the BRSN Insider. I'm sitting down with track and field coach Henry Brun. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
This past weekend, you guys ran at Baker. Both the men and the women finished second. Talk a little about your weekend.
One of the things that I emphasized with the team when we got into our team huddle once we got to Baker that morning was that we put in a lot of work from indoor conference in that second week in February, and that's been a month and some change since we've actually gone out and competed for the majority of them. The work we've put in, things are finally connecting. I really wanted to make that a statement meet where we would go out there knowing that there were 8 teams from our conference there, and that it's a preview for what conference is going to look like a month from that competition. So kind of riled them up a little bit, get them excited, and then we just kind of let them loose on the track and out in the field. And as a whole, it was pretty impressive from top to bottom. Field events went fairly well. Like I said, throughout the season, we've had a lot of young athletes on the team, just getting some experience. It's their first outdoor meet as a college athlete, and there were a lot of personal bests from indoor to outdoor. There were a lot of lifetime bests across the board. Sprinters on both sides did exceptionally well. Middle distance held their own. Longer distances, we did have some highlights there. It's just trying to put all the pieces together. And it looked pretty promising to start the outdoor season.
How important is it to get those points from the field events? I know in past years there hasn't been too many field athletes. How important is it?
Extremely important. I mean, our women's team, we lost that outdoor conference title last year by 6.5 points, and we didn't score in 10 events. And so the emphasis that we put in recruiting this year to bring those athletes in, to being hurdlers, jumpers, multi-athletes, it definitely brings a lot to the table. It makes us a lot more well-rounded. So we're not just banking on 5 or 6 athletes to put in all the work in order for our team to really get the acknowledgement that we want as a whole. So field events, extremely, extremely, extremely important. I'd say the biggest progress on the field event side is probably the throwers. We had a handful last year, brought in a couple more this year. The underclassmen last year are finally connecting on some concepts, and our men's and women's equally with the shot put, the discus, the hammer, and the javelin. It's all really connecting right now. They're doing fairly well. Their first marks for the outdoor season put them in maybe the top 10, top 12 in the conference, and it's just trying to improve personally and then improving on that performance list to move up the list to potentially be top 8 at conference.
Do you think you could send some field athletes to the Outdoor National Championship this year?
I think there might be a couple that are on the bubble. Sarah Lucas, as a freshman, she went 17-1 in a long jump. She needs to break 18 feet to go. She improved by almost a foot from indoor to outdoor in 1 month of training, and she's got a lot of potential in the long jump. Triple jump, we've got a lot of female triple jumpers on the team. We had 3 in the top 8 last week. We have 4 of them that'll do pretty well. I'd say 1 or 2 maybe have a shot. Field event side on the men, you have Dylan Grove, who was an All-American in the javelin 2 years ago. Definitely think he has a shot to go back. We've also got a couple young shot putters who are on the bubble. They got to do a little bit of work, but I think that things can go well there. And then Jeremiah Keneally is a freshman. I would classify the multis, the decathlon, as kind of a field event, geared event. And his primary event's high jump and long jump. I think as a decathlete, he should be able to hit that qualifying standard once we get him into a decathlon competition. And like he qualified indoors but just wasn't high enough, I think he'd be able to qualify and be high enough as a freshman to at least be able to go to Alabama and get to experience the national championship meet. So there are a few across the board for sure.
On the track side, Lucy Layton took first in her race. John Dan and Darrell Ronalds took first in their races. What did you see from the 3 of them?
With Lucy, she's picking up where she left off. With her and JD in particular, it's really hard to kind of keep the ball rolling once nationals is done. You want to take a couple weeks, you want to reset mentally, physically, come back, and you get a little rusty just because there's a couple weeks that you haven't trained, you get back into practices, and I was talking with them about just shaking the rust off, and that's essentially where we're at right now. So for her to go out and just race the race it confidently, she won that 5K pretty confidently. Large margin of victory, and just understanding that she went 18:20 in the 18:20s. 17:50 is what gets you to the national meet. So she's got a little bit of work to do, but she knows that she's capable of making it to that stage. She'll definitely be improving to get there. In regards to JD, he ran the 800 and the 1500, won them both pretty comfortably. He went out there just to enjoy it. I mean, for him, we know that there's still a lot of races left in the outdoor season. He knows that he's got to drop some time in order to qualify in either event. But for him, it was getting out there, competing with his teammates again, competing with some conference foes. He hasn't raced in a few weeks, and he's just a couple weeks into practice off of indoor since he took extra rest, and just to have some fun. With Jarrell, he was 0.2 seconds off of qualifying for nationals indoors. He came out outdoors very, very, very hungry. So he's a lot more composed on the track. To be able to go out there and race and watch the final 50 meters where he outran 3 of the guys who were within the top 3 of the conference last year with him early on in the season, it definitely shows that there's some promise there for the 400. And then him and Joe Butler did an amazing job Joe being a freshman. In the 200, both ran some pretty great times in the open 200. So I think him working with a younger upperclassman who's got some speed like him helps him training and it'll help him compete. So those three definitely some great highlights of the meet.
CMU this coming weekend, your expectations for that meet?
CMU is going to be probably around the same competition level where we should be able to go in there and, relatively speaking, we should be able to compete well and probably be one of the more dominant teams. It'll be a smaller meet. The weather's actually going to be nice. 75 and sunny is for the forecast for the day. Not a whole lot of wind. I think we should go in there and it should be building off of what we did last week at Baker. Understand there's going to be some conference teams there again. Some other teams there that we don't typically see. Last year Truman State was there. Hopefully they're there again. Great competition. And kind of come out on top and get closer to some qualifying marks. Person in particular I'm looking at, Meredith Pickert. She went to nationals in the 3,000 meter race walk, and she was one place off of being an All-American indoors. She ran the 5K race walk last week at Baker, and she had a 47-second personal best from last year's 5K time. She's 17 seconds from qualifying. The training, she kind of came off of a bum ankle last week, and so it was pretty promising to see that. She has a legitimate shot of qualifying this weekend. With the competition level, it might be a little tricky for some other people. We might not see some good qualifying times until we get to like KU or later on in the season, but I know we'll definitely be improving. We've got some people trying some different events, seeing where it is that we'll be able to put people in at the end of the month for conference to score the most points we can, because it looks good on both sides for men and women. I would say, from my knowledge, and if we went back into the records and looked deep, this past weekend at Baker was the first time that the men's team scored more points at a track meet than the women.
Wow.
And it was only by 2 points, but that's extremely promising for a men's team that scored 6 at the indoor conference meet, and they beat everyone but one conference team at this open invitational. So the men have stepped their game up, and the women are continuing to develop. So we should be, both teams, top 3 contenders at the end of May. And that's what every week is, just building towards that.
How important is it to race against good competition? Do your athletes seem to find another gear when they race against, maybe they look over and see a D1 logo like a KU or a K-State or a Missouri?
It definitely puts things in perspective for them. So, I mean, going to Baker, going to CMU helps with some younger athletes and some of those who are working to score at the conference meet just get points. And it's a feel-good meet for the really good athletes. They go out there. It's a glorified training session when you're trying to hit particular splits. You know, you're giving maximal effort, obviously, but you know there's still more in the tank. And then when we step into meets, you know, even next weekend when we have a limited group going to William Jewell, a lot of D2, D1 competition, when we go to the KU Relays the week after, all D1 competition and premier regional competition regardless of division, that's when it's, you know, it's game time for these guys. They're like, okay, we got the feel-good meets out of the way. We're ready to challenge ourselves. We've been working in practice to come out here and focus on one event or 2 events in that whole weekend in order to capitalize on those, get some qualifying times for nationals, get some, you know, school record times, just trying to chip away. And that's the big meets coming up the next 2 weeks after this weekend to really make that happen. Because it's those 2 meets in conference that will make your season. So I would say that seeing D2, D1 competition, and even higher level NAIA competition definitely prepares us for the conference level and the national qualifiers. It kind of gets the nervousness out of the way. If you can compete against the people at the D1 level, you know you can go to the NAIA national championships and hold your own. So
Awesome, Coach. Thank you very much.
Hey,
Best of luck to you this weekend.
Thank you.
Henry Brun, head coach of the Benedictine College track and field team on the BRSN Insider.
Benedictine College is a chosen place with a special mission. Chosen to lead students in the classroom and outside it. Chosen to bring students closer to God and to each other. Chosen to build one of the great Catholic colleges in America.